Welcome, brave souls, to the chilling depths of horror in detail, the realm where the shadows whisper ancient secrets and nightmares come to life. I am your guide through the darkness, and on this channel, we delve into the spine-chilling world of Wendigo horror stories that will send shivers down your spine. First story. The past never lies still. I'm writing this quickly with the hope I may be able to see another sunrise. However, this time I think my past may have finally tracked me down. As a child, I lived a somewhat chaotic lifestyle. My dad was a writer, so we moved wherever the wind blew for him. My mom was a teacher, and when my dad wrote his first successful novel, she decided to take us out of school and homeschool so we could have the freedom to move around. It was nice to be able to see so many beautiful places, but I never felt stable. My dad had some usual haunts here and there to go and write, usually for a few months, but there was a particular one that always stuck in my mind. It was a quiet little redwood cabin, a few miles out from Fargo in this huge, dense, redwood forest. We normally went in winter as it was the best place for my dad to work, craving isolation as writers do. We flew to Fargo like usual and rented a car for our stay. We drove up the tight winding road towards the cabin with nothing but huge redwood trees surrounding us. I watched as the trees whizzed past whilst looking deep into the forest brush. You could see trunks fanning out for miles, and beneath them all were large bushes, nettles, grass, and the like. I looked closer than usual as I had this strange, unshakable feeling as if we were being watched. Sure enough, as I focused on the bushes and nettles, I saw them moving like something was running through them fast. My heart sank to the floor as I saw what looked like a large shadow, jumping and running like a dog through the dense forest trying to keep up with the car. I tapped my brother on the shoulder hoping he would look and see himself, but he was too invested in his game to bother. So I sat there in the car, watching until weirdly enough the thing just stopped chasing us. I twisted around to look out the back, and to my horror something crawled out of the forest and then stood up. All I could see was a quick glimpse of a looming shadow before it was out of sight. 5 minutes up the road and we had made it. My skin was crawling thinking about how close that creature was from the cabin. We walked up the path towards the cabin but stopped shortly after as the door was wide open. We all walked inside to find the place completely trashed, furniture tipped, scratches and gashes all along the walls and floor, curtains ripped, and all the doors open. My dad played it off, saying an animal must have broken and fought to get back out. My mom and brother agreed and got to work clearing up the place. When I saw the mess, I knew that the creature that was following us did this. The aura about the cabin had changed. It felt like something sinister was living close by. I broke down crying, scared out of my mind, as flashes of the shadow I saw entered my mind. I pleaded to everyone that we needed to go home. My mom came running over to comfort me, and my dad tried to make me feel better by showing me all the different weapons he had to keep us safe, guns, bear traps, and sensors, and it worked. I did start to feel better. This was a bitter mistake. He went to work setting them all up, putting extra protection around the doors and windows. By the time he was finishing up, it was nightfall, so we all went to bed. I was still on edge. However, the protection did make me feel better, so I crawled into my warm bed and drifted into slumber. Weeks went by with nothing eventful happening. I started to feel more comfortable and would go on short walks with my family around the site. Until one night, I was woken in my sleep to the sounds of shuffling outside my window in the snow. I looked around the darkness of my room, half expecting something to be there, but there wasn't. I had this eerie feeling, like I was being watched again. It's a sickening feeling, like when you're on a roller coaster and it races down an awfully high drop, making your belly do somersaults. Except here you are not moving, and you're certainly not having fun. I got out of bed to check the window, and as I walked over to it, I saw it. Steam on the window pane, like something had been breathing heavily onto it. At that point, I should have called for my parents, but I couldn't. I had to go and see what caused it. I reached the window and peered outside. It was snowing extremely hard. So hard, in fact, I struggled to see the tree line, which was only about 200 feet away. It was an incredibly warming sight, to tell the truth, as I love snow. Then I proceeded to look down. All the warmth I currently felt was crushed. Tracks, huge and grotesque, leading away from the window and into the snowstorm. I followed them with my eyes, counting each step, looking for anything that could have caused them, until I found it. A shadow in the distance. It must have been at least 7 foot tall. My eyes trailed up its bony figure until I saw 2 glowing white lights at the top. It was only when it blinked I realized they were eyes, and they were staring straight back at me. The door began to creak open behind me. I could have died on the spot from fright. I jumped back into bed and threw the covers over me. Creak, creak, creak. The floorboards next to the bed went. Someone was walking on them, and the sound was getting closer. Bam! A hand fell on the blankets and pulled them back. I screamed hysterically in sheer terror, but the face that greeted me back was that of my brother. My parents came bouldering in through the door, my dad shotgun in hand, and my mom pale as a ghost. Turns out my brother had come to wake me up to show me the crazy snowstorm outside. I felt horrible for screaming in his face like that, but the timing was just downright awful. I felt like telling them what I had seen, but after the panic subsided, Dad spoke to both me and my brother. He said that he and Mom had been talking. They want to leave the cabin as there have been a few leaks and some structural damage causing the cabin to be unsafe. The weather will be getting worse, and the last day to leave will be soon, before the storm picks up. I felt so relieved at this and shunted that urge to tell them aside, now knowing we will be leaving soon. We stayed in the cabin all the next day, and that night I had horrifically vivid dreams of what I had seen. Safe to say I barely got any rest. The dream of last night began the same, but as I replayed the event in my brain a few times, it started to change, getting worse. The door didn't open this time, and I looked into those white eyes. I then saw it drop into all fours and run away into the white snowstorm. A strange urge filled me in that moment, an urge to follow it, and I shook it off. However, I couldn't shake it off. I fought that urge with everything I had, but it was no use. It was like my body and mind were possessed by something stronger. I was now but a mere watcher to this nightmare. I walked into the living room. My dad was passed out on the sofa, so I had to be quiet so as to not wake him. Reaching the coat hanger, I picked out my red mountain coat and slipped on my red wellies. I was about to do this. I was about to go out there in the storm and follow it. I opened the door. A huge gust of wind and snow struck me in the face, whistling all around me, and started flooding into the cabin. I quickly ran outside and shut the door. I put my hood up and began to walk down the porch steps and into the violent storm. The snow was smacking me in the face from all directions, the wind was howling something fierce, and all I could do was watch through my eyes as I slowly made my way towards the forest. I kept walking straight. Looking around me revealed nothing but white. If I strayed even slightly left or right, I would be completely lost in this horrendous storm and would most surely meet my demise. Thank God it was some sick, twisted dream. Despite my growing fears of getting lost, I reached it, the forest. The beautiful red bark on the trees had now been completely covered in white along with the bushes, rocks, and ground. It was like a different place altogether. I trudged into the forest, snow crunching below my feet. The snow and wind eased as I walked further in, probably from the tree line and the dense forest providing some form of shelter. As I walked, things moved around me, bushes, grass, nettles, and it was not from the wind, it was from something extremely fast. The sounds came from all around, and a thought stuck in my head. Could there be more than one of these things? I walked and walked, sounds filling my ears from all around, but I dare not look, for who knows what I would have seen, so I kept my head down. Suddenly, I felt an awful crunch under my foot, and it was not the snow. No, this crunch was meaty. I stopped to look down. It was a fucking body, a human body, there under my feet peeking out the snow. It had been ripped to shreds, like it was some toddler's play toy. Blood had covered the snow into dirty crimson red. Hair, skin, clothing, and even teeth littered the ground, all mixed in with the glistening crimson blood. The noises of running around me were picking up. These things were closing in. It took everything I had to get my legs to work again as they felt like jelly, and when I took control, I ran, like I had never ran before. It was so hard with the snow working as a nasty resistance, but I had no choice. I had to get away. I heard things from behind me like twigs breaking and low whispery voices. I kept glancing behind me, expecting something to be following close behind, ready to chase me down and rip me apart like the body I had seen, but nothing appeared. Eventually, the trees began to thin as the snow and wind grew louder and louder. It wasn't until I bumped into something hard that I stopped and readjusted my vision. Standing before me was a huge gray rock about 10 feet tall. I had to step back to look at it. It was gigantic and had strange writing all over. It was like someone had written in cursive, but the language was not English. Unfortunately, I could not read it. After staring at the rock, I decided to look around me to find myself in a large clearing. It explained why the wind and snow had picked up again. I looked around, and on the floor I saw them. Smaller rocks, and most of them had been stacked in mountain-like piles. Some were small and some big, and they covered the floor as far as the eye could see. It was extremely haunting and eerie, but the sight was also familiar. I racked my brain, putting my hand on my head. Why was this familiar? It felt like the first time I had even seen it, but at the same time weirdly not. And then it hit me. In history, I had learned about different cultures and religions. These mountain-like rock formations had come up a few times. They were cairns for the dead. It hit me that I was currently standing in a huge graveyard and felt extremely sick. Looking back at the huge rock, I realized that the writing etched all over it was names, probably of people that had died here, and there had to have been hundreds, if not thousands. With a rush of pure emotion that I could not control, I dropped to my knees looking up at the great rock and cried like never before, bowing low before it. After a few minutes of crying, I heard a horrible, bone-chilling howl like a wolf, but different. It was something much bigger. I stood back up, pushing my back against the rock, looking out into the snowstorm. As I looked into the white storm, I could see shadows, dashing all around me with ecstatic speed. My breathing became erratic and I began to hyperventilate. I struggled to keep my eyes open as the snow pounded into my face. But out of the white fog, I saw a massive dog-like creature running my way and fast. I put my arms up to shield my face, bracing for this thing to get me, rip me up to shreds, tearing my insides apart, but instead I found myself bolting awake at last out of the disgustingly vivid nightmare. I stared up at the ceiling, dripping with sweat. My breathing was all over the place to the point I thought I was having an asthma attack. I started to pull myself together when I realized today was the day we were finally going home out of this messed up place. I got up. It was nice and bright outside. My dad was already packing the car, and I decided to go out and hopefully help to speed things up. After everything was sorted, I went back to my room, gathered my things, changed out of my pajamas, and just as I was about to put on my socks, I saw something that made my heart stop dead. There it was, the cut that I suffered in that nightmare. It was there, on my ankle, just the same as in the dream. This couldn't be real. I ran over to the bed. The sheets were dirty, and on the floor, crumpled up, wet and dirty, was my red wellies and coat. It was all real. I gripped my chest. I was young, but I felt like I was having a brutal heart attack. I wanted out. I needed to get out of this place fast. I ran outside screaming at my dad that we needed to get out of here and now. At first, he tried to console me, but when he looked into my eyes, something triggered in him. He ran inside shouting and running around frantically. Not long after, my dad, mom, and brother came running down to the car. My mom seized me and said everything would be fine. The next thing I knew, we were in the car and driving off. As we drove down that winding road, I saw what felt like hundreds of those glowing eyes watching us from the bushes as we left. I turned one last time, looking out the back window to see them all coming out on all fours from the bushes into the road. There must have been at least 5 of these creatures. They all slowly began to stand. Most of them were extremely tall and very bony. I couldn't make up much detail as we were driving away, but I swore I saw one of them lift its hand up to give me a very grotesque, slow wave. God, that sight still sends chills up my spine. My family actually did end up going to the cabin the next year, but I stayed back with my auntie, absolutely refusing to go. I would go as far as to say I would have rather died than return. My intuition was correct, as when they came back they all looked petrified. My dad said he would never, ever go back. My brother had cuts and bruises all over him and had to go A&E in Fargo. My mom was the only one that seemed normal. I tried to ask my brother and dad what happened, but they vowed never to speak a word to anyone. I tried, but they never wanted to experience what they saw again, and I can somewhat relate to that feeling. Quite a few years have passed now. I've got an amazing husband and 2 beautiful children, and everything has been great, but the past can never lie still. Over the years, done some research into what I saw, and I believe it could have been the creature from Native American legend, the Wendigo. A creature known to stalk, play with, and even control its prey into horrible deaths. Some of the things I have found out about it truly make my stomach churn. It also lines up with the grave site I found, as the cursive writing and cairns line up with the Native American language and traditions. Strangely, it appears on no map, not even on Google Earth. Like a disease, my past is back. The scar on my ankle has mutated into some sort of weird-looking symbol, and the nightmares have returned. At night, I hear them whisper like they did in the woods outside our bedroom window. I would always look but wouldn't see anything. Sometimes I would just stay there all night watching the tree line until the sun rises. Tonight I woke up again. The whispering was extremely bad, and when I walked to the window I stopped dead. They were all there, standing tall against the moonlight, their faces long like horses, their skin gray and wrinkly, their eyes wide and white, and their teeth. My God, the teeth. The closest thing I could say they looked like was a canine that had no lips to cover its vicious smile. The one in the middle slowly lifted its hand. If you could call them hands, they were more like razor-sharp claws in the structure of a hand. It lifted it up, and this time there was no mistaking it. The thing waved at me. They walked back slowly into the forest for the last time that night. Night approaches again, and I have no idea what is going to happen, but if that body in the woods is anything to go by, I'm in for one hell of a night. I was stupid to think the past would just lie. Second story. I slay monsters for a living. Over 600,000 people go missing a year in the United States. And many of these cases simply remain unsolved, with families never getting closure. Or so the government would have you believe. Truth is, they would rather have these families not know what really happened. They would rather the world didn't know. What was that MIB line? A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals. So rather than telling you that your father was eaten by a werewolf, or your daughter was killed by a shapeshifter, they simply tell you that they are missing. That doesn't take care of the problem, though, which is where I come in. Well, me and my fellow slayers. That's what I call myself, though it may not be the official term. See, my parents were killed by one such monster when I was a child, and the government in its infinite wisdom decided that rather than sending me to an orphanage, they would turn me into a monster slayer. They experimented on me, taught me how to kill, and gave me state-of-the-art weaponry. All for one singular purpose. Not the career I aspired to as a child, but it pays well enough. However, enough with preamble. Let's get into what you really came here for. A story of a time when I tangled with one of these creatures. It was a Wednesday morning when I got the call. 6 teenagers had gone missing after going on a camping trip. A whole day gone with no contact from them. Normally, I would only be called in after all other law enforcement had failed, but one of the teens was a daughter of a high-ranking government official, someone in the know, and had pulled enough strings to have me hired as a consultant. I arrived at night and was assigned a partner. A young woman named Jenna who seemed nice enough, just clueless on what really goes on in the world. Your job is to help me in any way possible. You are just a consultant. I'm the one in charge. You understand. I nodded my head. I was perfectly happy with letting Jenna solve this on her own if it meant not getting my hands dirty. The first thing we did was talk to the parents as she wanted to follow up on some things. The parents were of course no help. However, I got the chance to talk to my employer. So, what do you think? Is there a monster involved in this? He asks me in private. I can't say yet, sir. I will have to go to the campsite to see what exactly happened. If it is, I will make sure to take care of it. I try to assure him. Truth is, if it was a monster, his daughter was likely dead already. But I couldn't tell him that. He frightened enough as it is. After the questioning, we headed straight to Forest the teens went to camp in. At night it was almost pitch black and oddly silent. Is it usually this quiet? I inquire, to which Jenna replies, normally no. We have quite a few animals in these parts. I'm worried something got to the kids. Not good. Something has scared off all the animals. Looks like I will be doing more than consulting after all. We were barely inside the forest when I started smelling blood and death. Jenna, of course, was none the wiser. She had not gone through the same kind of experiments and training as I had, which meant she was now just a liability. How about we split up, Jenna? Cover more ground that way. I'll give you a call if I find anything. Jenna thinks for a moment, then responds, all right, William, but do not touch anything. Call me immediately. Of course. I'll go this way. I reply, then head off to where the smell is coming from as Jenna heads the opposite way. The stench was getting stronger, and eventually I arrived at what seemed to be the campsite. The scene before me was gruesome, something I had become familiar with in this line of work. Poor kids had been enjoying s'mores when whatever creature attacked. Slash marks across all their bodies. Not deep enough to kill instantly, but enough to make them bleed out. The creature had killed them for sport. I count the bodies, 5 in total. My employer's daughter was missing. Can't be a coincidence. Wonder if he knew more than he was letting on. Then I heard a scream, piercing the silence of the forest. Jenna. I rush towards her as fast as I can, moving as a blur. As I arrive, I see what caused the scream. It was tall and skinny. Some part of its body was covered in grayish fur while the rest was just bone. It had the skull of a deer, antlers and all, with the teeth of a canine, red with blood. A Wendigo, a side effect when cannibals eat a little too much at once. It was eating the daughter, but its attention had been turned to Jenna, who screams, "What the fuck is that?" I do not take the time to explain, instead dashing towards it, bringing out my retractable sword and stabbing it in the chest, making sure to slip through its ribcage. Wendigos, despite their form, still have similar anatomy to a human, and stabbing its heart will kill it instantly. Unfortunately for me, I miss, hitting the lung instead, giving the monster time to grab me and fling me into a tree, breaking it as a result. All I seem to have done is piss it off. Then I hear gunshots. Jenna seemed to have gotten over her fear. Little good it does, though. Wendigos might be skinny, but their bone is quite tough. It charges towards her instead as she keeps firing a gun even after the clip runs out. Run, damn it, run, I shout. She doesn't hear me as Wendigo charges into her, knocking her down. Jenna lies on the floor, eyes closed and crying as the Wendigo opens its mouth, wide enough to take her entire head with a single bite. Fortunately for her, it never comes. The Wendigo collapses. Poison had finally taken effect. My aim has always been terrible, so I take extra measures. I approach it and pull my blade out while giving it a kick to make sure it is dead for good. Jenna is still on the floor crying her eyes out and screaming, not realizing what has happened. It's over. The Wendigo is dead, I say soothingly. After what seems to be a minute, she opens her eyes, red from all the tears. The what? You know what that thing is. Shouldn't have said that. Yes, but that's not important now. You should head back. In the morning bring the others, and you can take the bodies. I tell her, remaining calm. What should I tell the others? The parents, she asks frantically. I'm sure you have predators in this forest. Say none of them got to the kids and that's it. You must lie to them. You understand. She nods her head. All right, go. I'll be right behind you. I hope she is able to lie. I was. I couldn't tell her the truth. I couldn't tell her that the slash marks on the teens weren't from the Wendigo. I couldn't tell her that the daughter's already dead body had simply attracted the Wendigo. Which of course begs the question, if the Wendigo didn't kill them, what did? Third story. I own a winter cabin in the forests of North Minnesota. Things are getting weird. September 24th, 11 p.m. Recording 1. Me and my wife recently purchased a cabin deep in the forests of northern Minnesota. As recently as 6 months ago, in fact. I was never much of an outdoors person. Growing up in a fairly large town in the southern part of Minnesota, I rarely saw the great outdoors, as I've heard many call it. My wife, however, is a country-loving woman through and through. Having grown up miles from my hometown, surrounded by woods and farmland her whole life, I don't think there's a single city slicker bone in her whole body. That being said, I somehow managed to convince her to buy a house with me in a small town, with the condition that, when finances allowed, we would purchase a cabin to stay in half of the year. And, well, unfortunately for me, she held me to that promise. My wife decided that she wanted the 6 months spent in that cabin to be from October to March. Why anyone would choose to go farther north for the 6 coldest months of the year in what is essentially the fucking ice capital of the central United States is beyond me, but my wife insisted. Please, James. She had begged. You know my favorite seasons are fall and winter. And she was right. I did know that. Growing up, she loved the leaves changing color in the fall, and the first snowfall was always magical for her. After some more insistent begging, I caved. Fine, but don't slide closer to me when you're freezing your ass off at night. I replied, a slight smile creeping across my lips. A large, childlike smile spread across Samantha's, or Sammy, as I affectionately called her, face at my response. Her smile always seemed to brighten up the room. Even since we were kids, it's always made my heart flutter. Better not smile like that up at the cabin. You might scare all the wildlife away, I smirked. Her smile turned into a half-offended, half-amused open-mouth smirk as she smacked my arm. You asshole. I chuckled softly at the memory as I drove down the winding dirt pathway through the woods. Sam turned her head to look at me. What's so funny? She asked, cocking her eyebrow up slightly. Oh, nothing. Just laughing at myself, I said, flicking my eyes towards her. She rolled her eyes as a hum reverberated up her throat. I moved my eyes back to the road and immediately slammed on the brakes, sending us both into our seatbelts. Crossing the road was a maimed deer, limping from one side to the other. Its stomach was torn open, leaving a trail. How it managed to keep moving was astounding. Sam and I looked at each other and back at the deer, which was almost fully back within the trees, before it collapsed. What the hell? I muttered, turning and looking at her. She shrugged her shoulders, probably from black bear. They've been known to hunt deer. Do they hunt humans, too? I asked, half joking. Not usually. I'm sure they'd make an exception for you, though. Oh, whatever, I said, putting pressure on the gas again. We slowly rolled by the carcass as we continued down the road. Once we were a couple meters away, I looked in my rear-view mirror and saw a flash of black, and the deer get slowly pulled into the brush. I always hated seeing wild animals getting killed, but such is nature, I suppose. We drove for another 15 or so minutes before we rolled up to the small, cozy cabin. It was technically about a week before October when we decided we'd make our stay up here, but with it being our first time, we decided to come a week early to get set up, and so I could scout around to find any possible work for our time up here. Since I was an electrician, I could work wherever I had my tools and the supplies needed for the job, and well, I had one of those things. My wife worked from home, working in the oil and gas industry, so that wasn't a problem for her. Oh, it's beautiful, she cooed. It's perfect. I must admit, Even as someone who could give or take country living, it was a sight to behold. Maybe staying out here won't be so bad. We can gawk later. Come on, let's get our stuff unloaded, I said, beginning to unhitch the small moving trailer we brought up. She nodded and opened the rear passenger door of the truck, pulling out our suitcases and whatever else we had in the back. What's this? She asked, showing me a small recording device. Oh, Jace wanted me to bring that. Something for him to laugh at when we got back. I took the small device and pocketed it. Jace was a good friend of ours, back from middle school. After I told him about the cabin, he laughed. He told me to bring a recording device so I can document my endeavors of trying to survive out here, as he called it. The asshole. Instead of only documenting my misery, however, I had decided to make recordings once a month, or during important events. You, living in the woods? I'd be surprised to see you survive 3 weeks, he had said. Sam just smiled. Of course he would. We both grabbed our respective bags and brought them up to the front porch. I fished the key out of my back pocket that the realtor had given me upon purchase and unlocked the door, opening it for the both of us to enter the cabin. We set our bags on the inside door to prop it open and made our way back into the trailer to finish unloading and to get our living situation in order. Once we had gotten the trailer and truck empty, moving the boxes into their respective rooms based on contents, we decided to call it a night. We have almost a full week to get everything situated. Samantha went to bed after we exchanged kisses, and I decided to record this first entry. October 15th, 21, 10:45 p.m. Recording 2. Well, it's been a couple weeks since my first recording. The cabin is set up exactly how Sam wants it. Lord knows she's picky. Bordering OCD, honestly. She's gone to bed by now. I think that these recording sessions are going to have to be a nightly thing. Luckily, she calls it a night a couple hours before I do. She generally wakes up a couple hours or so before me, though, so I suppose it balances out. We haven't really done much since we came up here. I found work near me, which I will be starting on in the near future. Just a small job, maintaining a warehouse's electrical systems, fixing anything that needs fixing, so that's nice. Sam is busy as ever with her job, so we both stay pretty busy during working hours. Last weekend, she decided she wanted to take advantage of the open country and do some shooting, grabbing her old .22 she's had since she could first hold a gun and shoot properly, as well as the 30-06 her grandfather gave to her after he had passed. She's always been a pretty remarkable shot. I don't think there's a single target she can't hit in one round. I gave it my own shot as well. I'm not quite to her level, but I can hit most targets within the first 2 rounds. Every once in a while, I might need to take a few more shots. My old man used to take me to the range once or twice a month. We like to make friendly competitions to see who can hit the target the most before going through 15 rounds. Of course, she wins every time. Damn it. I had whispered under my breath after my final round hit the ground to the side of the target. You're getting better. I could feel her smirk. You only missed 5 out of the shots you took. Yeah. Give me that 12 gauge, and I'll hit every shot, I retorted, nodding in the direction of the bag it sat in. Well, yeah. It's hard to miss with one of those. She laughed. Exactly, I smiled, turning back to her. I flipped the gun to safety. Are we finished? She nodded her head, grabbing the small .22, and we walked back inside. That's more or less all that's gone on since we've arrived. I must admit, I'm liking it up here a bit more than I had anticipated. Of course, I'd still prefer it back at our other home, but I could adjust to this. It's getting pretty late, and I should probably hit it for the night. I have to get to work in the morning. My next recording will probably be on my birthday. I'm sure Sam will have something planned. She always does. November 23rd, 21, 11:50 p.m. Recording 3. Sam threw me a very small surprise birthday party. My parents drove up here, and they're staying until the morning. I had to come out here to my truck to record this, as my parents are in our room. Sam and I are sleeping on a blow-up mattress in the living room. Her parents decided to make the drive back home, so they left some hours ago. It was nice to see them again. I haven't since. Wait, what the fuck is that? November 24th, 21, 12:04 a.m. Recording 4. Holy fuck, that freaked me out. Some deer was sitting on the edge of the forest, just barely in view from the light given off of the house porch lights. It looked like just the skull. At first, I thought it was just sitting on a post, left as some sort of freaky housewarming gift, but it turned its head and disappeared. Must have just been a trick of the light, or I'm just tired. I'm going to call it a night and go inside. It's getting pretty cold now, since it's getting later in the year, getting close to winter. November 29th, 21, 10:30, recording 5. Well, Jace, you wanted me to record me trying to survive out here, so I'm going to make you listen to every damn minute that I have something to say. There's been a pretty foul smell since the night that I saw that deer. I've smelled decaying animal before, and that's more or less what this is. I asked Sam about it, and she didn't have much to say. Animals die all the time. It could be that one recently did round the edge of the forest. It should go away after a couple days. I hope so. It's been driving me nuts. On a brighter note, my new job has been going fairly well. I've seen some pretty dumb shit working there, having to replace some wiring, conduits, and whatnot, but for the most part, it's been easy and smooth, which is good. Easy money is the best money, as I'm sure you know. Sam's job has been the same as always. She's on that damn laptop almost all day. Internet out here is much more shoddy than back at the other home, so I often hear her cursing at the computer, which I find amusing. I've been seeing a large amount of wildlife charging through the yard, deer. I've even seen a couple moose. Big fuckers. I didn't even know we had them here. I don't know where there's been so many. Maybe they move when seasons change? I don't know. I don't know anything about animals. Like I said, I'm a city boy. They all looked like they were running from something. Or trying to run. All of them seemed jacked up, running janky, like their bones were all messed up, or that their skin just didn't fit quite right. But they were too far away to tell exactly. Maybe a bear got to them all? Must have been some big-ass bear to make a moose run, or fuck it up that bad. I didn't take moose as the type to run away from anything, though. But I don't know. Tomorrow I'm going to try to get Sam out of the cabin, so we can do something. Maybe we'll go for a short hike through the forest. She might enjoy that. December 25th, 21, 11:45 p.m., recording 6. Merry Christmas to all those listening to this. We came back down for the weekend. We're staying home until January 1st. It's quite nice being back. Nothing too interesting has happened since the last recording, so I won't have anything else to say until we get back. January 1st, 22, for 30 p.m., recording 7. There is shit everywhere up here. We just pulled in front of the cabin, and it looks like someone came through and broke into the cabin. The door is off its hinges and just laying on the porch. There's garbage everywhere. Looks like whoever it was wrecked the enclosed trailer as well. It's all dented and smashed to hell. The boxes we used to move are torn to shreds all over the yard. Really, James? You have to record this now? Sam asked. Well, yeah, Sammy. I'm sure Jace and whoever else is listening is going to want to hear about this. Fuck sake. She sighed. Just help me clean up. January 1st, 22, 10:40 p.m., recording 8. Well, I don't think Sam liked me recording our reaction. She got pretty upset about it. Guess I'm sleeping on the couch tonight. January 2nd, 22, 1:27 a.m., recording 9. I just woke up to weird noises. It sounds like a person calling. It sounds like Sam coming from outside. I'm walking to the door now. Fuck me, it's cold. Holy shit, I think I see her. Why is she standing out here? Sam? Sammy. J. Amos. Sammy, what the fuck are you doing? J. Amius. It's cold as hell, hon. Come on back inside. James. What the hell are you doing? Sam said. Wait, who the hell is that? January 2nd, 1:35 a.m., recording 10. They're gone now. Sam came out from the bedroom and was freaked the hell out, which honestly, I don't blame her for. I had her go get the 12 gauge to try to scare them off, but it wasn't until I shot the ground in front of them. After that they ran off, but not before screaming this almost inhuman scream. It was definitely human, but it was just so animalistic. The flash revealed them for half a second, and they looked so wrong. Definitely some druggy high off their ass. I'm just glad they're gone now. Listening back, it seems so obvious it wasn't my Sam. I mean, the pitch is there, but it's so off. I'm just chalking that up to being tired. Sam seemingly forgave me for what happened earlier, because she's letting me get into bed after I'm done recording this. Or maybe she's just scared. Either way, I'm not complaining. That couch sucks. I don't know how well I'll be able to sleep tonight with that freak out there, but we'll see. January 5th, 10:45 p.m., recording 11. I know that I said I'd only be doing these about once a month, but things keep getting weirder, almost paranormal. I'm not opposed to the idea of ghosts or spirits and all that. My wife and I are Christian. Well, that's the easiest thing to call it. We don't exactly follow an organized religion, but you could call us Christian. We've been hearing weird noises at night. Both of our names being called other strange noises. I don't quite know how to explain it. The smell of decay is back, too. Last night I saw that deer thing. I think it's a deer. I'm not so sure anymore. It might be someone in a deer mask, but it looked so decayed from where I was, and looking at it the smell of death was overwhelming. I'm honestly scared. I haven't told Sam yet, in fear of sounding insane to her, but I'm ready to just go home. I'll see about bringing it up to her in the morning. There's a massive blizzard going on right now, and it's getting cold. I'm going to cozy up in bed with Sam and get some sleep. January 6th, 8:45 a.m., recording 12. She's gone. Fuck if you CK. Sam's just fucking gone. I woke up and she just wasn't here. The truck is still outside. It's covered in a blanket of snow. The door was wide open. It's freezing in here. I'm getting my boots on as I'm recording this. January 6th, 9:30 a.m., recording 13. That fucker. I know they have something to do with this. The truck is inoperable, tires slashed, fucking engine won't even turn over. There's gas everywhere, like they punctured the gas tank. I don't know where Sam is either. I ran around out there calling her name, trying to find her. I kept hearing my name, the same fucking voice from the other night. I swear, when I get my hands on these freaks. January 9th, 6:30 p.m., recording 14. Sam still hasn't come back, and I've been searching for the last 3 days. I called the nearest police station. They sent out search parties, but nothing. I listened back to the recording, and the voice isn't the same. It actually sounds like her, but it's wrong. It's so wrong. I don't know what else I can do. It smelled like death in that damn forest everywhere. Please. I hope that wasn't Sam. And I keep hearing that fucking voice. I can hear it now, outside. I'm going out there with the 12 gauge, and I'm fucking whoever is doing this up. Consequences be. Holy fuck. Holy fuck. What the fuck? That's not. What the fuck is that? January 12th, 5:45 p.m., recording 16. Sam's dead. She has to be. And I'm in here, sitting like a coward. The doors are boarded up, the windows too. Yesterday I saw a big deer thing, but it was not a deer. It was massive, 7, 8 feet tall, gangly, and the smell, holy shit the smell. It was awful. I've spent the last day reading, and I came across something called the Wendigo, some old native legend. said to have insatiable hunger. But it couldn't have been a Wendigo that night. It was a person I saw. I know it. It had to be. They came back last night. I heard it calling my name, trying to imitate my wife. My poor wife. We should have stayed home. Wendigos can't look like people. They can sound like them, sure, but not look. What the hell was that? I've also come across skinwalkers. From what I know, they can't copy whatever they're trying to imitate perfectly, which could explain the weird movements and the messed up face. But that has to be fake, right? But the Wendigo shouldn't exist either. Plus, skinwalkers surely would imitate more than one thing, right? Not just one. The animals. The animals I kept seeing running through the yard, they were all messed up too. Oh, shit. Fourth story. I found what happened at Roanoke. I live in the Outer Banks, down in North Carolina. Frequently, I've visited the historical site of the lost colony, amazed by the artifacts and the intricate lore and history behind the place, alongside the folklore and fairy tales of what happened. I personally believe this is what led me to my job. I'm an archaeologist. I've done digs in India, Iran, even Eswatini. You name it, I've probably done work there. Recently, the state of North Carolina hired me out to check out Roanoke and visit the site, alongside a small team. I remember now being glad, as I could finally work near my home and be able to see my family in between workdays. If only it were that simple. It started pleasantly. Our team was cohesive, well-rounded, and extremely quick with our workload. We would be inspecting and digging around the remnants of a few shelters and some nearby native ruins, nothing too unusual for a site like Roanoke. I used to personally believe that the settlers of Roanoke simply joined the Croatan tribes, likely struggling in the New World and taken in by natives, which was uncommon but certainly not unheard of. We would each be given a tent near the site, and there were 2 campers we could use to drive in and out of the sites with our gear and to sleep if the weather got bad. Overall, the first few nights went well, and I've done much worse. I'd only have to stay for 2 weeks, get paid, and then return home. It started on the 4th night, 8 days out from the end of our dig. Branches crumpled around my tent, and I thought it was just one of my crew going out late to take a piss. However, they didn't have a flashlight and they seemed thin, unnaturally so, and tall. The figure seemed to be 6 feet 5 inches or 6 feet 6 inches if I had to guess. We had some pretty tall members on our team, but this person just felt unfamiliar. I went to give them my flashlight, as walking alone at night in the middle of a forest without light could be dangerous, but they were gone before I could unzip my tent. I heard more branches crack, footsteps, and then nothing. I went back to sleep, figuring that they probably knew their way anyways. Nobody else from the team knew what I was talked about as I detailed my experience the night before over breakfast, except for David. David was a bit of a loner, rarely talking except when needed. However, he had a steady hand and was well liked among my team, proving to be an invaluable member. It wasn't human, that's for sure. I saw it too, you know. I opened the tent for just a moment and saw it. It was bony and thin, towering over everyone. It was also as pale as a sheet, with a nose but no mouth. Its eyes were sunken and black, restless, David stated, trailing off and staring into the distance. "Stop fucking around, David," I said, which caused a laugh from the crew. Inside, however, I had a feeling he was right. It wasn't human. The 5th night was when I saw it. I camped out in the camper, using back pains as an excuse. In reality, I wanted to see if I could see it again. I blacked out the windows, turned on the heaters, had a handgun ready, turned on the dash cam, and got out a pair of binoculars. I was prepared. I caught a glimpse of it next to a tent at around 1:51 a.m. first, staring directly at a sleeping camper. The scariest part? It made no sounds. Without a mouth, it just stared blankly. Every time that thing took a breath, you could see its ribs. It showed no expression, no lust, no ambition, No anger, no pain, no happiness. Nothing. Its head began to drop, and a hole began to form around where its mouth would be. What the fuck? I shit you not, in an instant, it grabbed one of the tent poles and crushed it with its hand. The poor soul who was trapped inside of the tent let out a scream before the entire tent was thrown into a tree, silencing it instantly. The creature then tore a hole in the tent and swallowed my crew member whole. All of this happened seemingly instantaneously. But then, like clockwork, others began to appear. However, the thirst and hunger of the creature had not been quenched. The abomination visited each tent one by one. I attempted to start the car, only to see that mud had formed around the tires and that it wouldn't be able to move. Fuck. Hearing the noise of the car starting, the creature ran towards me, shattering the windows as it attempted to grapple me. I shot blindly and wildly, shooting it in one of its eyes. It covered its eye and ran off into the forest, bleeding profusely. As it turned, I saw 7 letters carved into its back. Croatan. As I type this, I am driving to the police and then to my family. David and another, a heavy drinker who rarely actually showed up to the digs, managed to stay safe and hid, as the drunk stayed in the camper near an unhealthy amount of beer cans and a mini fridge, and David had hid after seeing the beast the night before, refusing to sleep and then sneaking off to where I was staking the area out when he first saw it again. 5th story. The Pandemonium Complex. I've lived at this complex for a few months now. The people and things that live here are far from normal, to say the least. Things that nightmares are even afraid of. I can't leave, because it won't let me. The complex provides everything I need to survive if you know where to go. The only safe place is my room, number 224, and it's finally provided me with a computer to reach the outside world. It knows it can trust me now, and I'm no longer trying to leave. This place is my home now. I've accepted that. The thing that runs this place takes the form of a male bellhop in a straw boat hat and names itself Winthorpe, but I've seen what it really is and what it can do. It is God here, and as long as we're in its realm, there's nothing anything can do here about it. It mostly stays in the lobby's concierge desk if you ever wish to speak to it directly, but we all know its placement and appearance is just a formality to make us feel at least a little comfortable in our home. It and the complex are connected and yet separate. A God and a living universe together in symbiosis. They're both mostly harmless as long as you abide by the rules. 1. A tenant must never kill or fatally harm another tenant willingly. 2. Nothing may leave, but all can enter. 3. Your room is safe. 4. Rule 1. Is void when in another's room, but only to the room's tenant. 5. Damaging the complex or its property purposely is forbidden. You'd think these rules would stop anything from hurting you, but all those rules did was make the things that live here more creative in what they can do to you. There are things worse than death and pain. I've seen some that have fallen victim to the other tenants' creativity. Like me, there are some humans that live here and other mortal beings from either different worlds, realities, times, and everything beyond and between. Some have abilities of their own, and some are nothing more than mortals with flesh and blood like myself. I've learned some things while living here and how to survive. The most recent was the victim of him and her. Him and her are dangerous to say the least, but minor compared to the other things I've seen. Him and her are shadow people, but not the kind that you know of. The two don't peek around corners or disappear when you see them. They make sure you can see them. The fear you permeate just makes the game more fun to them. Imagine a great white shark in an open ocean that's bored and all there is you and him. You can't escape them. There's shadows everywhere, and the shadows are their room. The first you will see is him. I've seen him, but for now he has no interest in me. Just seeing him won't make you a target. That just means you have his curiosity, but not his interest, yet. He is a tall shadow man. They can change their size and shape, but most often he's about 7 feet tall. Looks as if he's wearing a fedora hat and long coat. He has no features and is as black as the darkest void. If you try to stare at him, you'll only make yourself a target. The only reason why I know his appearance is because I rode the elevator with him a few times and only once alone. Only glance, but never stare. Luckily, I know better than to stare at anything in this place, and I thought I was his new target until we seemingly reached his floor first and he was gone. They only appear and disappear. Even they can't seem to travel boundless in this place, and luckily the complex is always illuminated pretty well. There's rumors that they're the reason why Rule 5 was created, since the shadows are their domain. Can't have them messing with its lights as they please, I guess. If you see him too much, that means you've caught his attention, but he's not what you should be worried about. If he's following you, that means run and hide. Him is warning you. Her is coming. One day, however, on my way back to my room, I got about halfway to my door before looking down the long hallway and seeing him staring. I averted my gaze to respectably let him continue, but when I looked back, he was still there. At this time, I've only heard tales of what this means. I gave him one more chance and averted my gaze to check again. He was still there. Taking no chances, I began running in his direction towards my room. Your room is safe, and I heard he's not the one I should be afraid of. I ran as fast as I possibly could and heard footsteps quickly gaining on me from behind. Looking back will only slow me down. I pushed as hard as I could towards my room, running and hearing those steps gaining on me easily. Suddenly, I was violently pushed to the right side of the hall with the force of a hulking beast. I guarded my face to try and stop what should be impossible to happen to me, only to hear the running continue down the hall where I was running towards. I looked and saw that I wasn't being chased. I was in the way of another apex predator that was now just as far down in the food chain as me. A Wendigo. Due to the rules of the complex, some things in this place are made entirely handicapped to hunt. One of these things was a Wendigo that I've seen from time to time. We passed each other in the hall, and I've seen other Wendigos too living here. They are no pushover. Standing tall, they can match the height of him. They're skin to bone skinny, the palest of white skin. Their lips and eyelids have rotted off from hunting and feeding, leaving only dangling rotten raw flesh. Their eyes are always open and vigilant, but clouded like a blind man. They have almost no gums left to show the full display of what was once human-looking teeth. Long but few inky black hair remained on this one. Its hands and feet are at least twice as long as a human's. Their nails on their hands and feet match the status of their teeth. Black with rot, but long and sharp to hunt their prey. Black veins that once pumped blood in their human lives and now just holding coagulated remains. In the right circumstance, even a weak one can wipe out a small, well-armed village. Even though they're not allowed to harm me, I always gave them a respectable distance, and this one was running for its life. I looked toward where it was running from and regretfully wished I hadn't. That's when I saw her. Her is similar to him in base appearance. A shadow woman, tall and thin. She towers over him and looks as if she's wearing a gown. Her hair flows away from her head and moves like the wind, gently blowing it all around. They dance so slowly and methodically, like they're hypnotizing you. But what makes her all the more terrifying is, unlike him, her has a face. Like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, she only has a mouth and eyes. Her features float in the void that would be her face. Teeth that look like they each belong to a different thing, varying as sizes, shapes, and colors. Some babies, some are adults, fangs, healthy and new, and some rotten and old from age. They form into a long, wide smile. She wears more than the average person, and the edges continue almost infinitely into the darkness and rotate like two carousels, turning in opposite directions like she's displaying her treasures. Her eyes have no lids and are yellow and bloodshot. The only thing darker than her and him is the pupils that sit in the center of eyes. She is a nightmare's nightmare, and now I've had the misfortune of being one of the few to see her. I heard what sounded like a screech mixed with a roar and turned back to the right where the Wendigo was running to. Somehow she was already there, even though I was just looking at her to my left. She was in front of the Wendigo and had her fingers digging into its back and pulling it towards her. The Wendigo tried with all of its might to pull back, But even with the strength of being able to rip apart a tank with its bare hands, it was still no match for her. It screamed and roared in a feeble attempt to fight back, but the only resistance it was putting was her letting it know how weak it was in comparison. I watched in terror as she had enough of her game and pulled in her meal. Her eyes locked on her prize, and even being made of shadow, she still dug her long black fingers deeper into the Wendigo's back. Her long arms slowly reeled in her catch, and all the once feared monster could do is scream. It tried with all of its might and will to run away. I watched her ever so slowly pull in the terrified creature. I felt sorry for it. She took its left leg and pressed it into her chest, and the Wendigo's food was immediately consumed into the void. She slowly pulled the creature into her body, and the monster screamed louder. I heard Wendigos can't feel pain, but whatever she was doing was far past whatever pain was. She pulled more and more of the creature into herself and rolled her eyes up with her head slightly tilted back, as if she was thoroughly enjoying her meal. The poor thing reached out to me, and even with barely any features left, I can see it begging and pleading for my help in its face. I couldn't help but whisper, "I'm sorry." I watched as her hand covered the beast's face and smothered its screaming head into her body. The Wendigo's right arm that was still reaching out fell limp after its head was consumed. I watched as the last remaining limb of the now defeated beast faded into the darkest black. Her was still looking up, savoring her meal. The shadows are him and hers room, and all she did was apply Rule 4. For her, him, and all the shadows are their room. She snapped back downwards and focused on me. I immediately covered my face and shut my eyes as hard as I could. Sitting on the floor in the hallway in the fetal position, I noticed I can still see her face even with my eyes closed. The shadows are her room, and my eyelids are no exception. I opened my eyes immediately at this realization, but looking around in the light, they were all gone. The Wendigo, him, and thankfully her. I took a second to gather myself and proceeded back to my room. I'm going to stay inside for a few days after this incident. My room is safe. However, I've seen what else lives in this complex. Him and her are nothing compared to some of the other horrors that live here, and even if they were top of the food chain, they are but ants to Winthorpe and the Pandemonium complex. Thanks a lot for watching the video till the end. Subscribe to our channel Horror in Detail. Drop your opinions/suggestions in the comments section, and like the video as it helps with the YouTube algorithm.